Now here's your packet lesson. 3-3, day 2, starts on page 99. Let's get after it. Again, I'm assuming you watched the pre-lesson, which is going to give you a huge kickstart to understanding. So the ironic thing is, it's called the half-angle formula, but you're going to end up doubling this. So you end up with 150 over 2. Now you've let u equal 150, but you're going to have to plug it into this formula. So I'm going to go plus or minus 1 minus cosine of 150 all over 2. So again, another excuse to force you guys to spin your spinners. So I'm going to spin it 150. Please continue to be accurate. It'll help you out so much. In other words, that's 90 and 60. Do not make this look like a 45, 45, 90. It'll mess with you in the long run. Plus, this clearly identifies that my reference angle is 30. Drop the other side of the triangle. There's my 1. There's my square root of 3. There's my 2. Don't forget that's negative. So what in the world would cosine be? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So this crazy little thing is 1 minus a negative square root of 3 all over 2. Now this little guy needs to stay long or else it'll be confusing and you'll forget that it does cover that 2. Okay, so what do these negatives make? A plus. So I end up with plus or minus, don't forget that, that comes along with the formula. And I'm just going to see that up in my numerator, see up in here, I've got some math to do. Now I'm going to find common denominators, so that's going to be 2 over 2 plus the square root of 3 over 2 all over 2. Now why would I do that in the numerator? Because I'm simplifying. And so I'm going to go ahead and try to squeeze this in one more step here above the next problem. And I got common denominators up in the numerator, so I'm going to write it as 2 plus the square root of 3 all over 2 all over 2. Now I've already said this in this class, but here's a little skill that you need to have. So if I had this problem and I said, hey, what's 10 over 2? Oh, let's change that. Let's make it 5, okay? And let's do it that way. 10 over 5 would be 2, and 2 over 2 would be 1. What if, experimentally, I let this 5 drop beneath that line and I multiplied? Then I'd get 10 over 10. Did it work? Yes, it worked, so it's 1. Why am I showing you this? We're going to take advantage of this little rule, because I'm going to let this guy slide over this line, multiply against that 2. Watch what happens. I get plus or minus 2 plus the square root of 3 all over 4. Now what's the square root of 4? 2. Boy, did that little trick help out. Now the top is just a crazy looking answer. The bottom just turns into a 2. That's it. That's all the farther you can go. Maybe that's the first time you've seen a square root of a square root in your answer. You're done. All right, let's move on to the next one. Once again, sticking with the program, knowing that I need some space, I'm going to move it up here. 30 over 2. That means I'm going to let u equal 30, but I'm going to plug it into the tangent formula. And remember I told you, just kind of avoid that. A little bit like the plague or the Rona. Sorry about that. 1 minus, see I'm just going to plug in 30 right there, cosine of 30 degrees all over sine of 30 degrees. Obviously, I got to draw a triangle. I'm going to use that space up there. Spin your spinner 30. There's my 1, there's my 2, there's my square root of 3. So that means 1 minus, what's cosine of 30? Well, it'd be adjacent over hypotenuse. What's sine of 30? That'd be opposite over hypotenuse. Now I have a different situation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, hey, wait a minute. Think about it this way. Little algebra lesson. What's 10 divided by 1/2. Well, don't say 5 too fast. That's actually 10 times 2 over 1, which is 20. Now, how could I rewrite this differently? 10 over 1/2. Remember, if you have a fraction in the denominator, you can flip it and multiply. So that's what I'm going to do. I have a fraction in the denominator. I'm going to bring it up here, flip it, and multiply, which means just distribute, distribute. And it'll quickly take me to my answer. 2 minus, and then these 2's would cancel, square root of 3. See, that cleaned up pretty nice. All right, cosine of 195. So I need to double that. So that's going to be cosine of 390 all over 2. And what I need to do is figure out which formula to use. It's going to be this one. So I need to go plus or minus the big old honking square root, 1 plus cosine of 390 all over 2. Well, we haven't done this in a while, but we got to take our spinner and go around a full circle. That's 360. How much farther do I need to go? 30. So that's just a sneaky way of saying let your reference angle be 30. Draw your triangle and figure out what cosine of 390 is. That'll be the same thing as cosine of 30. So that would be 1 plus cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, square root of 3 over 2, and that's all over 2. Now what I'm recommending is when you get something messy, see how I highlighted that pink? Concentrate on the top. The 1 is the same thing as 2 over 2, so I'm just going to throw it in there because I can see I'm going to need common denominators. So I get 2 plus the square root of 3 all over 2 all over 2. Sometimes you got to make this little rascal a little bit deeper. And what's our little trick? Let that thing jump over that big old division bar and multiply. So I get plus or minus square root of 2 plus the square root of 3 all over 4. And the reason we did that is because we know the square root of 4 is 2. So we go plus or minus 2 plus the square root of 3 all over 2. Bizarre looking answer, but that's it. All right. In the pre-lesson, I struggled a little bit, but we calculated it to be 75 degrees. So we go, all right, it's the same thing as 75 degrees. Again, how do we do that? 180 divided by 12 times 5. But now we need to manipulate this because we need it to look like this. So we got to double that, which is telling you let u equal 150 and plug it into the only cosine formula available to us. And you're starting to see the repetition of this stuff, I hope. Big old square root, 1 plus cosine of u all over 2. Well, we already have 150 drawn up here, so we're going to take advantage of it. And so plus or minus the square root of 1, make that deeper, hard habit to get used to. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that'd be negative square root of 3 over 2. And that's all over 2. Now, a lot of students don't like this part where you got to find common denominators, but you just do. So I'm going to make this 2 over 2, which helps me understand that this is now 2 minus the square root of 3 all over 2 all over 2. And when you have this situation, because these are all in the square root, this can jump over the line, multiply, plus or minus 2 minus the square root of 3 all over 4. And what's the square root of 4? Well, the top is going to be where our mess is. The bottom cleans up pretty nice. That finishes the last lesson of Unit 3. All right. Good luck, you guys.